With a fine weekend, a powerful motorbike and a girlfriend on the back, the Ton-Up Boys set off.
In the 50s and 60s, boys on bikes had earned themselves a bad reputation. They weren't just bikers, but rockers. Leather-clad young rebels riding dangerously fast on Britain's roads. But the motorbike-mad teenagers who were enjoying their freedom saw it very differently. Paul Plale was one of those unpopular boys on bikes.
We weren't that liked, I suppose, by the public because we were young. We had mobility. We had noisy bikes because that's how they built them. Exhausts were fairly open, so you couldn't really miss us. We did tend to get a bit of bad press. Unnecessarily.
But the bikers found they had an unexpected champion for their cause. When the Reverend Bill Shergold was assigned to a parish in East London, he found his church duties were best done by bike. And as a bike rider himself, Father Bill wasn't put off by their public image.
They had a reputation for beating up cinemas and dance halls and things like that, and nobody really wanted them. And what became quite clear was what they really wanted was to be accepted for what they were. They were quite frightening, I suppose, if you didn't know them. Terrifying in a way, I suppose, if you weren't within the fraternity. Yet underneath, there were marvellous young English boys, that sort of thing. It was incredible.
In 1962, Father Bill gave the bikers a place of their own. He opened a new section of the celebrated 59 Club especially for them. In North London, Saturday nights were bike nights, and Paul Plale soon became a member.
It was the buzz, really, that you got from going to any of the meeting places. Go down to 59 Club. Lots of bikes, lots of things to talk about. We weren't expecting to be entertained. We were quite sort of simplistic, really, in the 60s. Just being there and talking to people was good enough. And he was always looking forward to riding off somewhere afterwards. That was a part of being young. They were brilliant days.
I had no idea that it was going to take off as it did. I mean, literally, I thought it was just a little group of guys and girls who enjoyed bikes and never dreamt of becoming a sort of worldwide, world-famous club. Absolutely took over Hackney Wick, actually.
When Father Bill was given a new parish in Paddington, the bikers came with him. And for 10 years, he provided guidance, friendship, and spiritual welfare to his young flock.
I didn't ram religion under them. There were strings attached. You was come to church if you want to come to join the club. There's never a question of that. I had a sense that I was accepted. I had a fairly sort of posh accent and that sort of thing. It didn't seem to matter.
First of all, he was a keen motorcyclist, so naturally we were all very friendly to him because he was one of us. He was on our side, you felt. He understood really the enjoyment that we got from biking in the 60s. I mean, the independence, but the exhilaration of going around on bikes. You know, he talked the same language. He was absolute gent. But then you see motorcycling then as it is today. It's a great leveller. We had lots of people from all sorts of backgrounds, and it didn't matter.
This 1964 film was made to show the positive side of the motorbike rider. Instead of just meeting in lay-bys or speeding around London's North Circular, bikers were putting their passion to good use, like taking youngsters from a children's home on an outing.
One of the great things about the 59 Club, it gave them a sense of identity and a sense of purpose in their lives. I call them the Knights of the Road, you see, and suggested that sort of using their bikes in a responsible sort of way, rather than just for their own pleasure and excitement. And I think that caught on eventually.
Presented to Princess Margaret was Cliff Richard's mother. What an evening it was for the 700 teenagers jamming the East End's 59 Club.
In 1962, the 59 Club hosted a special concert night with music from a rising star of pop and an official visit from royalty.
Princess Margaret was made chairman of the Church of England Youth Council. And she said, well, if I'm going to do that, I want to see my youth clubs, you see. And so she was invited to our club as the first one and met all these hordes of people. Thoroughly enjoyed herself. I invited my mother to come as well, because Cliff brought his mother, and I thought, I'll bring my mother. And she was shaking hands with royalty. It was a lovely thing for her to do.
But despite royal approval and the success of the 59 Club, not everyone was convinced that what Father Bill was doing was the proper work of the church.
There was a certain amount of opposition to what I was doing. They thought it was a gimmick, you see. It wasn't a gimmick. It was a serious pastoral concern for people, because a vicar is concerned for all these people. And just, I happened to be led to that particular path, I suppose.
For the confirmed motorcyclist, the motorbike was a thing of beauty and an object of desire. But although this was the decade when many teenagers had jobs or apprenticeships, few could afford the machine of their dreams, and enthusiast rallies were the place where bike performance or polish could be compared.
Everybody wanted the best bike they could get, really, for the money that they had. I mean, we were young, so we bought bikes, on hire purchase, or the Never Never, as it was called in those days. So there was a limit, really, to what you could afford. If you had a bike that perhaps wasn't the best, you'd work on it.
And the two words on everyone's lips, the ton, 100 miles an hour.
It's a myth, the ton-up thing, to be honest. I would admit, I suppose, to occasionally doing 90s, perhaps. And on the 500, perhaps just maybe a ton, but not very often.
I never quite did the ton. I got, I think, in the 90s. I chickened out of doing the 100. But that's the fastest I've ever done, I think.
It never leaves you motorcycling. It's riding something where you feel a part of it. There's a tremendous feeling riding a bike.